Every single one of us is given the same 24 hours in a day. No matter where we come from, what our background is, or what resources we have, time is the one thing distributed equally. Yet, some people seem to accomplish extraordinary things with it, while others remain stuck in routines that barely move them forward. The difference is not about the amount of time we have, but how we choose to use even the smallest portion of it. Imagine dedicating just 1 hour a day to something that matters, something that aligns with your growth, your learning, or your dreams. 1 hour may feel small in the moment, but over time it compounds into something remarkable. An hour spent reading every day is not just 365 hours of reading in a year, it's an entirely new perspective gained, a sharper mind developed, and a reservoir of knowledge built. 1 hour of practice, whether it's writing, coding, painting, or exercising, doesn't just add skill, it transforms your identity into that of a creator, a healthier version of yourself. The power of 1 hour lies in consistency. Think about it. A person who invests 1 hour a day in a skill ends up investing 30 hours in a single month. That's nearly an entire work week of focused practice. In a year, it becomes the equivalent of more than 7 work weeks. Imagine what you could master, how many problems you could solve, or how many new doors you could open with that level of commitment. But it's not only about skills, it's also about the discipline and mindset it builds. Giving yourself 1 uninterrupted hour teaches focus in a world filled with distractions. It trains your brain to prioritize, to protect what truly matters, and to commit to something beyond instant gratification. The beauty of this approach is that you don't need to wait for the perfect time or the perfect opportunity. You only need to start today with 60 minutes. The question is not whether you have the time, it's whether you are willing to relocate it. That hour you spend scrolling endlessly, watching meaningless content, or caught in tasks that don't serve your future. That same hour could be the foundation of your transformation. In the beginning, the changes might feel invisible. But weeks turn into months, and suddenly you notice you're stronger, smarter, more confident, and closer to the person you want to become. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens hour by hour, day by day. If you give yourself just 1 hour a day, the future you is already thanking you for the life you will have built. FEF keynotes of the speech, every person has the same 24 hours, but transformation comes from how we choose to use even a single hour. Dedicating 1 hour daily to growth compounds into significant results over time. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. 1 hour every day builds mastery and discipline. Protecting 1 hour builds focus, resilience, and a mindset of prioritization. Transformation is not instant, but accumulates. Small daily actions shape extraordinary futures. Every single human being on this planet wakes up with the same gift, 24 hours. It doesn't matter if you are a leader of a country, an entrepreneur building a business, a student preparing for exams, or someone working hard just to make ends meet, the measure of time never changes. The wealthy cannot buy more of it, and the poor do not receive less of it. The genius, the artist, the athlete, and the dreamer are all given the same fixed daily allowance of hours. Yet when we look around, we see vastly different results. Some people achieve extraordinary levels of growth, influence, and fulfillment, while others feel stuck in cycles that seem unbreakable. The question we must ask is simple: if everyone is given the same number of hours in a day, why do outcomes differ so greatly? The answer lies in how each person decides to use even a small portion of those hours. Think about this in terms of priorities. Out of 24 hours, most of us commit a significant portion to survival needs, sleep, work, eating, and daily responsibilities. These are non-negotiable. But even after those tasks, we still hold hours in our hands that can either be wasted or invested. This is where the critical difference begins. Imagine if someone chooses to dedicate just 1 of those hours every single day to personal growth or purposeful action. That 1 hour might seem too small to create a difference in the moment, but over time it becomes the most valuable investment of their lives. Consider 2 individuals. Both wake up with the same 24 hours. One spends their free hours scrolling through endless feeds, watching clips that bring quick entertainment but no lasting impact. The other spends that same hour learning a new skill, practicing a language, exercising, or writing ideas for a project they've been dreaming about. After 1 day, the difference is invisible. After 1 week, there's still little noticeable change. But after 6 months, the second person is visibly sharper, healthier, or more skilled. After a year, the gap between the two is undeniable. One is in the same place they started, while the other has taken significant steps toward becoming someone new. The foundation of transformation isn't the hours that pass. It's the decision of how 1 single hour is utilized. What's fascinating is how time compounds when used with intention. If you dedicate an hour a day to reading, you might finish 30 to 40 books in a year. If you spend that hour exercising, you could dramatically improve your health, energy, and strength in just 12 months. If you devote it to practicing a craft, painting, coding, public speaking, writing, by the end of a year, you will not only have accumulated hundreds of hours of practice, but also transformed your identity into someone who actively lives that craft. 1 hour doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you become. It's also important to recognize the psychological effect of this choice. When you carve out 1 hour for yourself, you are sending a powerful signal to your brain that your growth matters, that your goals are a priority, and that you are willing to protect space for what is important. In a world full of distractions, that act of protection is a discipline that sets people apart. While others let their hours slip away unnoticed, You are consciously choosing to invest. That choice repeated daily creates not just progress in skills, but also strength in character. The beauty of this principle is that it removes excuses. Many people say they don't have enough time, but the truth is they do. Everyone has 1 hour they can relocate if they truly desire change. The hour may come from less television, less scrolling, or even waking up slightly earlier or sleeping slightly later. The transformation doesn't require a radical life shift. It requires consistency with a small shift. The challenge is not about availability of time, but about courage and commitment to use it differently. When we step back and observe those who achieve greatness, whether in sports, science, arts, or leadership, the pattern is clear. They didn't transform overnight. They built habits of consistent effort, often starting with small daily increments. The extraordinary results we admire are simply the cumulative effect of ordinary hours invested with intention. That is why 1 hour, though it may appear insignificant, carries the power to transform everything. Because when added up day after day, it becomes the difference between mediocrity and mastery, between staying the same and becoming the person you are capable of being. Dedicating 1 hour daily to growth may sound simple, almost too simple, yet this is where the deepest truth lies. Human beings often underestimate the power of consistency because we crave immediate results. We want to see transformation instantly, but real change is the product of accumulation, of small actions repeated over time until they compound into something far greater than what we imagined. 1 hour might appear insignificant when compared to the 24 available in a day, but when that hour is used with purpose, it becomes a seed planted. With every passing day, the seed is watered, and eventually it grows into something strong, valuable, and visible. To understand this better, let's look at how growth works in reality. Learning, mastering a skill, or building a healthy body doesn't happen in a single day of effort. It happens through continuous practice, through the gradual layering of experiences, knowledge, and habits. 1 hour invested in reading, exercising, practicing music, or studying a craft does not only bring benefit on that day. The mind and body adapt and retain, carrying the benefit forward into the next session. The progress is slow, almost invisible at first, but then, much like compound interest in finance, the effects multiply with time. The more consistent the effort, the more exponential the results become. Take the example of reading. If a person spends 1 hour every day reading books that expand their understanding, in a year they would complete dozens of books. That's hundreds of hours of exposure to new ideas, perspectives, and knowledge. Imagine the difference in conversations they can have, the insights they can offer, and the confidence they build compared to someone who reads nothing beyond casual headlines. That hour compounds into expertise, wisdom, and clarity of thought that cannot be achieved in spurts of occasional effort. Or consider physical health. If 1 hour a day is committed to movement, whether it's running, weightlifting, or even mindful stretching, the results extend far beyond fitness. The individual feels more energetic, more confident, and more disciplined. They reduce stress, sharpen focus, and improve resilience. Over months, the body transforms, but so does the mind, because the act of showing up daily reinforces identity. The person no longer just exercises, they become someone who values their health, someone who lives in alignment with their well-being. The same principle applies to skills and careers. A student who dedicates an hour daily to mastering a subject will find themselves miles ahead of peers who only study when deadlines approach. A professional who spends 1 hour learning new tools, refining communication, or building relationships becomes the one who outgrows their role and earns new opportunities. Success in any field rarely comes from grand gestures. It comes from small investments repeated so consistently that they outlast the efforts of others. This compounding effect is powerful because it doesn't just create knowledge or ability, it reshapes mindset. Every hour spent on growth reminds you of your capability to improve. It builds patience because you begin to trust the process. It builds discipline because you learn to show up even when motivation feels low. It builds momentum because each completed session encourages you to continue. Soon, 1 hour is no longer a struggle to give. It becomes something you crave, something you protect because you can feel its impact. Another hidden gift of dedicating 1 hour daily is how it redefines identity. People often see themselves as fixed. I'm not good at this, or I can't change that. But when you commit to a daily practice, you slowly rewrite those definitions. The person who writes for 1 hour every day eventually stops saying, I'm not a writer. The one who studies daily no longer says, I'm not smart enough. Growth redefines who you are in your own eyes. And that is one of the most transformative outcomes of consistent effort. What's remarkable is how achievable this is. 1 hour is not an overwhelming demand. It is manageable even in the busiest of lives. Yet because it is consistent, it builds a bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly you look back and realize you've built a body of work, a set of skills, or a version of yourself that once seemed out of reach. That is the compounding power of 1 hour a day. It transforms time from something that passes unnoticed into something that builds you, shapes you, and carries you forward toward the life you desire. Consistency is more powerful than intensity, and nowhere is this more evident than in the way we build habits, skills, and long-term success. Many people believe that transformation requires extreme effort, a huge push of energy, a complete overhaul of their lives, or long hours of relentless work. While such intensity can create short bursts of progress, it is rarely sustainable. The truth is the greatest changes come not from what we do occasionally with massive effort, but from what we do consistently with steady dedication. 1 hour a day applied consistently outweighs sporadic bursts of 10 hours that happen only once in a while. The human mind and body thrive on repetition. Consider how we learn as children. We don't learn to walk by trying for 10 hours straight one day and then giving up for weeks. We learn by trying, falling, adjusting, and repeating until it becomes second nature. The same principle applies to everything else in life, whether it is learning a new skill, building a healthier body, or cultivating discipline. Consistency builds familiarity, and familiarity eventually becomes mastery. Intensity may impress for a moment, but consistency creates transformation that lasts. Take the example of fitness. Many people push themselves with intense workouts at the start of a new year, only to quit after a few weeks when exhaustion or lack of results sets in. Compare this to someone who commits to 1 hour of exercise every single day, even if it's moderate. Over the course of a year, the consistent person will not only build better health, but will also create a sustainable habit. The intense person, despite early enthusiasm, is often back at square one. The difference lies not in effort level, but in consistency of practice. The same is true in professional growth. An employee who attends one massive training seminar once a year may feel inspired for a week, but the lessons soon fade if not reinforced. Meanwhile, another employee who dedicates 1 hour daily to learning a new tool, improving communication, or studying industry trends builds knowledge that sticks. Over time, this person becomes more skilled, more confident, and more prepared for opportunities. The consistent learner surpasses the intense but irregular learner, not because they worked harder in a single moment, but because they showed up every day. Consistency also plays a crucial role in building identity. Every time you dedicate 1 hour to a meaningful practice, you are casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. A writer who writes for an hour every day is not only creating content, but reinforcing the belief, I am a writer. An entrepreneur who spends 1 hour daily refining their business idea is not just working on a plan, but strengthening the identity of being a builder and innovator. Intensity can give you results once, but consistency shapes who you are. And once your identity aligns with your actions, transformation becomes inevitable. Another power of consistency is momentum. The more regularly you do something, the less effort it takes to start the next time. Intensity, on the other hand, often creates resistance because it feels heavy and exhausting. For example, studying for 10 hours straight feels daunting and unsustainable, but studying for 1 hour daily becomes natural. The key is that consistency lowers resistance, builds rhythm, and makes progress feel like part of your lifestyle rather than an occasional event. Consistency also creates measurable growth. 1 hour a day is not overwhelming, but across a year it adds up to more than 365 hours. That is the equivalent of more than 9 full work weeks invested into a single pursuit. Intensity struggles to match this because few people can sustain high energy efforts over long periods. Consistency ensures progress even when motivation is low because it becomes a routine rather than a choice. The result is that while others stop and start, you keep building steadily forward. It's easy to admire moments of intensity because they look impressive. We see stories of people who work around the clock or achieve extraordinary things in a short time. But behind every great achievement is not just intensity, it is consistent, often invisible effort repeated day after day. The books written, the companies built, the athletes trained, and the leaders developed all came from showing up regularly, not from occasional bursts of energy. The reason consistency is more powerful is because it works with the natural rhythm of growth. Growth is gradual. Muscles grow gradually. Knowledge accumulates gradually. Trust in relationships builds gradually. Trying to rush these processes with intensity often leads to burnout or disappointment. Consistency, however, respects the pace of growth. It acknowledges that lasting change is not about what you can achieve in one day, but about what you can sustain over many days. When you embrace consistency over intensity, you free yourself from the pressure of instant results. You begin to trust that the small effort you invest today, and again tomorrow, and again the day after, will compound into something meaningful. That is why dedicating just 1 hour every day is far more effective than occasional surges of effort, because 1 hour daily becomes a lifestyle, and lifestyles shape futures. Protecting 1 hour each day to focus on what truly matters is more than a time management strategy. It is a statement of values. In a world overflowing with distractions, endless notifications, constant demands, and the pressure to always be available, attention has become one of the most valuable resources. Most people lose their hours without realizing it, giving them away to tasks that add little meaning or to habits that offer temporary relief but no long-term growth. By deliberately setting aside and protecting just 1 hour, you reclaim control over your time, your focus, and ultimately your future. That single protected hour functions like a sanctuary. It is a space where you are free from interruptions and fully committed to a single pursuit. Whether it is learning, creating, reflecting, or exercising, the value of this hour lies in the depth of concentration it allows. Studies have repeatedly shown that deep focus leads to greater productivity and higher quality outcomes. The human brain performs at its best when it is immersed in one task without constant shifts. Protecting an hour ensures that at least once in your day, you give your brain the gift of full attention, and that attention compounds into clarity, progress, and mastery, the discipline of protecting 1 hour daily is also a practice of prioritization. It forces you to ask yourself what truly matters to you. Many people claim they want to learn a skill, write a book, or build a healthier lifestyle, but their daily actions do not reflect those desires. When you protect an hour, you are making a conscious choice to align your time with your intentions. It is not about squeezing in growth whenever it happens to fit, but about declaring that this pursuit is important enough to reserve space for. Over time, this act of prioritizing trains your mind to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. The urgent tasks may shout louder, but the important tasks quietly transform your life. Protecting 1 hour also builds resilience. At first, it may feel challenging to carve out that time, especially when the day is filled with responsibilities. But the very act of holding firm to your hour, despite the noise around you, strengthens your willpower. It teaches you that distractions will always exist, but your growth does not have to wait for perfect conditions. You learn to say no to what is unimportant so you can say yes to what is. This is not just about time, it is about self-respect. Each time you protect your hour, you affirm to yourself that your future is worth investing in. The impact of this habit is not only personal, but also professional. In workplaces where constant communication and multitasking dominate, those who can focus deeply often stand out. Protecting an hour to develop skills, plan strategically, or reflect on bigger goals allows you to rise above the chaos of reactive work. You become the person who creates rather than just responds, who leads rather than simply follows. Over weeks and months, that hour-focused investment sets you apart, not through louder effort, but through sharper direction. Another subtle but powerful effect of protecting an hour is the message it sends to others. When people see that you respect your own time, they begin to respect it too. Boundaries, once enforced, become easier to maintain. Family, colleagues, and friends recognize that this hour is non-negotiable, and over time they adapt. In this way, you teach those around you the value of focus and discipline, and sometimes inspire them to do the same. Protecting your hour is not selfish. It is a ripple that encourages others to protect theirs. It is worth noting that the quality of the hour matters as much as its protection. If you spend it half distracted, checking notifications or worrying about other tasks, you lose much of its potential. True protection means removing distractions, silencing devices, stepping away from noise, and mentally committing to the moment. The brain needs immersion, not fragments of attention. Protecting 1 hour is an intentional act that demands presence, and with presence comes the deep satisfaction of knowing you gave your best. Over time, this habit begins to shift the way you see the rest of your day. Protecting an hour shows you that focus is possible, and once you feel the benefits, you naturally seek to extend it. The single hour often becomes a gateway to larger stretches of deep work and intentional living. But even if it remains only 1 hour, it holds incredible power. That protected space becomes a cornerstone of your growth, your discipline, and your identity. It is a reminder that while you cannot control everything that happens in your day, you can always choose to claim at least one part of it for yourself and your future. Transformation is often imagined as something sudden, a dramatic shift that turns life around overnight. We admire stories where someone makes a single decision and everything changes instantly, but in reality, transformation rarely looks like that. Real transformation is subtle, gradual, and layered. It is the result of small actions, repeated daily actions so small they may seem invisible at first. 1 hour a day might not feel like much, but when repeated consistently over weeks and months, it accumulates into profound change. The truth is that transformation does not announce itself loudly in the beginning. It builds quietly until one day it is undeniable. When you give yourself 1 hour every day, at first it may feel as though nothing is happening. You read a few pages, you practice a skill, you move your body, or you reflect in silence, and you finish the hour wondering if it really matters. That is the deceptive nature of growth. It doesn't show immediate results the way instant gratification does. But beneath the surface, things are shifting. Knowledge is being absorbed, habits are being reinforced, muscles are growing stronger, and your mind is becoming more disciplined. Each day adds a single layer, and those layers compound into transformation. Consider a person who decides to dedicate 1 hour daily to writing. On the first day, they may only produce a page. At the end of a week, they may have a handful of pages that do not look like much. But by the end of a month, they have 30 pages. In a year, they may hold in their hands the first draft of a book. The book did not appear in one burst of creativity, it emerged one page at a time through daily commitment. Transformation works the same way in every aspect of life. It is not a sudden leap, but a gradual climb. And the climb is built 1 hour at a time. This gradual accumulation also shifts identity. A person who spends an hour a day learning to play the guitar eventually stops being someone who wants to learn and becomes someone who plays. A person who spends an hour a day studying a subject no longer identifies as a beginner, but as a student on the path to mastery. The transformation is not just in skill or knowledge, but in the way they see themselves. Small daily actions create evidence, and that evidence reshapes self-belief. This is perhaps the most powerful part of transformation. When you begin to see yourself differently, your actions naturally align with that new identity. Another important dimension of daily transformation is the patience it teaches. In a world obsessed with speed, where everything is designed for instant gratification, giving yourself to an hour of growth each day develops endurance. You learn to value process over results, to trust the journey rather than chase shortcuts. This patience becomes an asset in every area of life because true mastery in anything, whether it is art, business, relationships, or health, requires time. By experiencing the gradual build of transformation, you strengthen not only your abilities, but also your character. The effects of daily actions are also exponential. At first, progress may be slow, but as time passes, the momentum builds. A person who exercises an hour a day may not notice much change in the first month, but by the sixth month, their energy is higher, their body stronger, their confidence deeper. A student who studies 1 hour daily may feel only slightly more prepared at first, but by exam season, they are far ahead of their peers. This is the compounding nature of transformation. Small gains multiplied daily create big shifts. What feels invisible at the beginning becomes impossible to ignore over time. Moreover, daily transformation creates stability. Sudden, drastic changes are often unsustainable, but habits built hour by hour are deeply rooted. They become part of your routine, part of your identity, part of your lifestyle. You no longer rely on bursts of motivation because the practice is ingrained. The stability ensures that the transformation lasts. You are not just achieving something once, you are becoming the kind of person who sustains it. When you look back after months or years of dedicating 1 hour a day, you realize the full magnitude of the transformation. The version of you that started seems distant, almost unrecognizable. You have gained skills, knowledge, health, or confidence that once felt out of reach. You see the life you are living now and recognize that it was built not through one dramatic change, but through hundreds of small, daily choices. Transformation was not an event, it was a process, and the process was powered by the discipline of giving just 1 hour each day to your growth. Transformation is not about waiting for the perfect moment, nor is it about chasing massive breakthroughs that happen overnight. It is about realizing that the life we dream of is built in small, deliberate increments, 1 hour at a time. Each hour we choose to protect and dedicate toward growth becomes a brick in the foundation of our future. Over days, weeks, and months, those bricks turn into structures of knowledge, discipline, health, creativity, and confidence. The extraordinary is never the result of one grand act. It is the result of ordinary acts repeated consistently. When we look back, it will not be the hours we wasted that define us, but the hours we invested. Just 1 hour a day has the power to separate who we are from who we become. It is the difference between drifting and growing, between wishing and achieving, between staying the same and transforming everything. The choice is always in our hands and the time is always available. The question is simple, and will we use just one of our hours today to create the tomorrow we truly want?